earlier this month that Facebook ended a policy that made posts from well-known news outlets show up more than posts from partisan pages. Have they said why they did that and what effect maybe that's had so far?
Speak against this.
So we've actually seen Facebook recently reverse course on that decision, but during the elections, as part of this emergency measure that they put into place, they decided that reputable news outlets would get higher ranking in the newsfeed, and therefore you as an individual was going to see more of them. The result was that outlets like CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal appeared higher in people's newsfeed than blogs and other outlets that weren't seen as reputable or as newsworthy. Facebook has since reversed their decision on that, and the question is whether that's going to have an impact on Georgia and whether individuals are going to notice in their own Facebook news feeds that they're now seeing more unreliable information.
That's interesting. Well, everybody keep their eyes open, right? In your case, you reference a study that found 20 super spreader pages that posted false claims. They got more engagement on Facebook on average than reliable news outlets after the presidential election was called for Joe Biden. And these pages had fewer followers than these mainstream sites. Which pages were able to achieve this much reach, and how do you think they were able to do it?
So again, these were pages that we have seen having the same effect in the presidential elections, and that was cases like Trump Jr., his wife. They're individuals who seem to have a significant following on Facebook of people who retweet or reshare and comment on their posts. And what we've learned from the past about Facebook's algorithms is that they do favor posts that are heavily engaged with. So if a lot of people are leaving a comment, a lot of people are interacting, Facebook's algorithm is going to say, oh, this is something that more people might want to see. That being said, Facebook's algorithm is also, it's a black hole. We don't know what's in it. It's an incredibly complicated equation that's making decisions every day on how to rank things. And so a lot of what we're doing is kind of assuming what Facebook's algorithm ranks higher based on what we see on Facebook newsfeed. But Facebook has never revealed what it actually, where it actually puts things in rankings.
I think a lot of people try to figure this out, right? Sometimes you post a picture thinking that'll get more engagement, or you post a link or something else that you think a lot of your friends will like, and then you're watching the likes, and you go down a rabbit hole with a lot of this stuff.
Exactly. And I think the reason Facebook doesn't want to reveal how its algorithm works, because then you would have people manipulating it, right? You would quickly have marketing companies and PR agencies figuring out how to make sure that their clients are at the top of the newsfeed. So I can understand why Facebook doesn't want to reveal exactly how its algorithm works. But I also think there's a question here of whether academics and a small group of researchers can have more input and understanding of the rankings so that they can understand how something specific like misinformation or disinformation works.
Interesting. So as we head into the runoff elections, what should voters be looking out for when they're on social media?
Well, I would tell voters that unfortunately, the same misinformation narratives that were being shared in November are being shared now, and a lot of them were already debunked. A lot of them we already have written extensive articles about. So, for instance, if they're seeing articles about mail-in fraud, they're seeing articles about people voting twice, dead people voting, people's pets voting, just do a quick Google search and make sure you click on a link that comes from a news outlet you've heard of, and you are likely to find a debunk of that specific rumor, a detailed explanation of why it's not true. So I would just encourage every person to check before they share something online.
It's so much easier said than done, though. You see it happen time and time again, don't you?
Exactly. I mean, I've seen my own friends and family members share things that I didn't personally do, and it always gives me a moment's pause. But I have noticed that when I share with them the information, when I share with them the article that has been written that shows that the thing they've shared is false, people are really quick to respond and say, oh, that's interesting, I had no idea. Now that I'm reading this, I can clearly see that it's false. So I don't think it's a lost cause. I just think that maybe some of our impulse to quickly share things online needs to be reined in a little bit.
Take a deep breath, everybody. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Sheriff Frankel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Argentina's government has voted to legalize abortions up to the 14th week of pregnancy. Supporters and protesters gathered in Buenos Aires as the Senate passed the bill during an early morning vote today. The policy change is supported by President Alberto Fernandez. Many countries in Latin America have strict abortion regulations, and the influence of the Catholic Church remains high. Argentina becomes the largest country in the region to legalize 100,000 people and led to the world's worst humanitarian disaster. President-elect Joe Biden has selected Kathleen Hicks to serve as the first female Deputy Defense Secretary. Hicks has a lengthy tenure in national security, having served in the Pentagon for more than a decade. And since November, she has been heading Biden's Defense Department transition team. The current scholar of the Center for Strategic and International Studies has criticized the Trump administration over numerous defense decisions, including a reduction in forces in Germany. Biden also plans to nominate Colin Powell as an Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. Welcoming a new baby is usually an exciting time for any family, but a new report is finding that new moms are struggling with unique challenges because of this pandemic. Naomi Ruckham has the details.
Mom of 3, Cassie Bonstrom, welcomed a new life in the pandemic, but she also suffered a great loss. Her mom, already battling cancer, died of COVID-19 just before her new granddaughter was born.
My mom wanted nothing more than to hold this baby. In my grief, I gravitate towards my family. I just want everyone to be together. And that's what we can't do right now.
Pregnancy can be a stressful time for new moms, and the pandemic is adding even more challenges.
We want to deliver early to get in and out of the hospital, and that I think is where the anxiety of pregnancy during the pandemic really set in for me was, what is the best thing for me to do during this time for my health and my baby's health?
A recent survey from Brigham and Women's Hospital with pregnant or postpartum women finds 36% reported clinically significant levels of depression. Rates were typically 15 to 20% pre-pandemic.
One out of 5 women reporting clinically significant anxiety.
Study author Cindy Liu says some women are coping with grief, loss, or disappointment.
Losing out on major milestones or feeling like they couldn't celebrate and join that baby. That is actually associated with higher levels of mental health problems.
About 20% of new moms reported being very worried about the health risks related to COVID-19. Cassie says she's doing the best she can to get through it.
What I wanted us to create special memories with our children now and to be as happy as we can together.
And she believes babies like hers will be resilient, just like their mothers. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Chip Reed will get you caught up on some of the other stories we're following today. Keep it right here. You're streaming CBSN.
Sorry. Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx lets free coupons go save up to 80% on your prescriptions. I have no idea. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
Hello? Hey, Dad. Mom's going great. Watch Husbands with Dad. Okay, that sounds nice. Oh, yeah, sure. Dad, check your email. Okay, what is this? It's Sling Watch Party. You can invite people to watch live TVs with you. Wow. Hey, family. Oh, no! How'd you get in there, Todd? Sling Watch Party is live TV together from anywhere, only from Sling. Get the best of people for the best night. Some people say our trade-in process feels too easy. They can't believe it's 100% online. It gives them a competitive offer that won't change for 7 days. An offer that they can put toward their new car. Some people can't believe our friendly applicant will come to them as soon as tomorrow, drop off their new ride, and whisk their old one away. Because we make trading your car unbelievably easy. Also, you can say, for yourself. Experience a new way to trade in your car with Carvana.
Each year, Americans waste $1 billion by overpaying for car insurance. That's why I went to thezebra.com. Because while every company claims to save money on car insurance, the Zebra shows you who actually can. You can easily compare quotes from top providers all at once. With the Zebra, you can save up to $375 a year. No fees and no spammy phone calls. Because who needs that? See what you can save. Compare car insurance for free at thezebra.com.
This is not the whole of 500 goals.
We're going to find the perfect tree.
We're going skating. We're going banana.
Wherever you go this holiday, Chevy can help you get there.
Which is why we're making our Chevy employee discount available to everyone.
The every price you pay is what we pay.
Not a cent more. So wherever you go, happy holidays from Chevy.
Use the Chevy employee discount for everyone to over $6,000 below MSRP on this Equinox.
Get the Chevy employee discount for everyone today.
What I love about products I find in Grove is that they're safe, they're natural, they're great for the entire family.
It's super important to me that I use safe cleaning products for my child. I care a lot about his body, so I don't know why it would be any different with cleaning products.
I thought switching to natural products would be more expensive, but Grove, it's really not. They have very high standards.
Grove gives me peace of mind. It's a really good feeling.
Go to grove.co today to get your free $30 Myers cleaning.
Now speak the truth. What brought you over to this place?
We want to organize and spread the message that this is urgent. I try to be a voice for the voices.
I'm here to fight for my right to have a planet. Our government has not taken action on climate change.
They want to stop the production of energy here in the United States. It's really an anti-American policy.
Young people have the most at stake. We're seeing stronger storms, stronger droughts. We're racing against time.
The climate crisis is first and foremost a human issue.
We've always been out there pushing the envelope because we want our future to be better.
Download the free CD.
What was God I'm digging for? Something deep inside this case.
Hi everyone, I'm Chip Reed in for Tanya Rivero. Thanks for joining us. Health officials in Colorado say they have identified the first case of a new, fast-spreading COVID-19 variant in the United States. The strain was first identified in England, where cases are surging. Colorado officials say the man is in his 20s and is currently in isolation. He has no travel history. U.S. health officials have repeatedly warned that the new variant is already likely circulating here. More than 19.5 million Americans have tested positive coronavirus since the start of the pandemic. More than 338,000 people here have died. One of those deaths is Louisiana Congressman-elect Luke Letlow. He died from the virus on Tuesday. Earlier this month, Letlow won a runoff election to represent the state's 5th district in Congress. He announced his COVID diagnosis on December 8th.